What's going on, internet? My name is Laurent, and today we're back with another Minecraft video. That was a weird intro. I've never done that before. That was new. Internet. Whatever. Okay, guys, today is a video all about villager breeding. Okay, if you're like myself, you probably want to watch some villagers do the nasty. Okay, it's really useful. Okay, that you can get lots of mending books, you can get unbreaking books, you can get silk touch books. I just do it for the books, but you could do it for other things like armor, diamond tools, diamond weapons. Some of them you can trade to get like maps to go to woodland mansions. So there's all sorts of useful reasons to have villagers and to breed villagers. But there's been lots of changes to the way that villagers breed and the mechanics of villagers over the years. I remember when they first came into this game, they were called testificates, and there wasn't a way to breed them. So we've come a long way, folks, and there's lots to know. And I've gone through the wiki, and I have absorbed all the knowledge, and I am ready to spurge it back at you in a way that hopefully you guys will understand, so that it makes it a little easier for you guys who want to breed some villagers to just go in there and understand exactly what you need to do to get villagers. Okay, let's do it. Okay, guys, so let's get right into it. So, for villages to breed, there are basically three essential things that need to be in effect, okay? There needs to be 2 adult villagers, they need to have the correct willingness, giggity, and there needs to be enough space, okay? So I'm going to go through all of these and really talk about them. I think the 2 adult villagers is pretty specific. You need two villagers that aren't babies. I used to think you needed a brown coat, a farmer, but I've recently learned this is not the case, okay? So keep watching, and we'll get into all of these factors and how they work specifically. So in order to breed, villagers have to be quote-unquote willing, okay? After mating, they will not be willing, and they have to be traded with again, or they have to wait until they are willing again, which can usually take 5 to 10 minutes. So to get a villager to the willing stage, there's essentially 3 things you can do, okay? You can trade with them. Unlocking a new trade with a villager will give them, will send them to the willing state. However, they will not mate right away. They will wait a few minutes before they mate. They tend to want to do it when the player's not looking. The next thing you can do to entice them to be in this willing state is by feeding them either 3 bread, 12 carrots, potatoes, or beets. So either of those, and I think 3 bread equates to 9 wheat if you're doing a wheat farm. So I like to do the carrots. If you have carrots, it'll grow really fast. For potatoes, because you'll get 2 or 3 per harvest. And I think they're the fastest grow stages. They've only got like 3 stages in between planting it and being fully grown. So if you're doing a villager breeder, I think this is the best way to do it. And as soon as you get a brown coat in there to start planting the crops, you don't have to entice them by feeding them. The brown coat will do it for them. He'll pick up the carrots and the beets, and he'll drop them around so that you can automatically have that stimulation going. So the third thing you can do to affect a villager's willingness is the affection towards the player. So like this is similar to trading, but this is also it can happen in a bad way. If you hurt too many villagers, if you kill a lot of villagers, if you punch them too many times, your affection towards that village can actually go down to the point where the village won't breed anymore. So that's something you want to be aware of. If you're transporting villagers, try not to hit them too much, because eventually they won't breed anymore, and they won't be useful for iron farms or anything like that. So that's one thing to be really cautious of. So the last thing that has to be accounted for is space. So the villagers actually have to have enough space in the village to breed. So what this means is, if a village has 100 houses in it, then the population at all times will try and keep at 35% of the amount of houses. So this essentially means that if you don't have a lot of doors, you're not going to get a lot of villagers, because if you only have 10 doors, you're only going to get 3 to 4 villagers, because they're going to try and keep at 35% of the amount of houses in that village. However, there is a way to trick it. I think it's a bug, but it hasn't been patched yet, so I don't know if they want to patch it. But right now, as of 1.11.2, there is a way to glitch or coax villagers into thinking or into breeding indefinitely, and I will go over that in this video. One thing I want to talk about too is how the doors work for villages. So some people will put doors underground for a villager breeder, and then they'll break all these blocks on top of it like this, and they'll assume it's fine. But Minecraft doesn't actually calculate villager doors that way. For a villager door to be considered a villager door, let's just plop it in there. Not only does there have to be a door with a block on top of it, But this block here, represented by this glass block, has to be touched by direct sunlight, okay? So you could have glass here, right, because it's a transparent block, but it needs to be touched by sunlight, whether it be an empty block or a whole block. So you can have a block here, it's just this block needs to be touched by sunlight. It's all the blocks above this that matter, and it's not actually this block here, it's this block here. People tend to get very confused with that, and they think that this is the block that matters, when it's actually this one. So just something to bear in mind. So before I get into this infinite villager breeder, let me explain to you about why it works. So villagers need to be inside of a sphere around the village center in order to breed. And this sphere, or the radius of this sphere, is equal to the village radius. And usually it's a minimum of 32 if you haven't expanded it. But the village population only counts villagers that are inside a box where the width and length of this is equal to 2 times the village radius. So, and a height of 9. It's always a height of 9. So around, and this always centers around the village center, right? So with a sphere that can grow to any size and a box that's only 9 high, it should be apparent that there are some zones only covered by the sphere above and below the village center, right? So you can reproduce and abuse this behavior by building 6 houses on the ground level. That's enough to set the villager limit to 2, drop 2 or more villagers into a 6-block deep hole, and leave 1 villager at the top to keep the house quote-unquote alive. Now this is exactly how my villager breeder works, my infinite villager breeder. These 2 root villagers down here are dropped down 6 blocks below, and then you've got the 1 villager kept alive up there as a root villager. So you can also, at this point, give them food to entice them to mate. So in case you haven't seen it, I'm just going to go over how it works really quickly. I'm not going to show you how to build the entire villager breeder, but this is how you would make an infinite villager breeder, okay? There's all sorts of ways to make villager breeders, but this is how you coax villagers into thinking that there's actually more houses there than there should be, and essentially breeding infinitely, okay? So this area down here is essentially where you're going to put your first 2 villagers, right? And then you could block this off with glass if you wanted to, right? I'm really bad at placing blocks. Let's go like this. And then I'll grab some glass just to patch this up. So loud. I love that noise. Okay, so we'll go like this. So now you can see that these guys are standing on this block here. So from here, we're going to want to go 6 blocks up, right? So 1, 2, 3, and that is our 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then up here is where we're going to build our 6 houses. Now, remember, what does it take to have a villager house, okay? All it really takes is a door and a block on top of that door, and that's a house, okay? And there's another house, okay? And there's 2 more houses. So that's essentially all this is. That's 6 houses right there. So we've got enough houses to trick our villagers into thinking that they need to breed more. But the thing is, they're going to be below the box that actually checks for population count. So essentially, these guys are just going to keep breeding and breeding and breeding, right? But we need a villager up here to act as our root villager, if you will. And in my opinion, the best way to do this is grab a boat or a minecart and quite literally just... Oh, I do that every time. Pop a boat in here, pop a villager in here, and you're good to go. And you can move this in a little bit, and we'll just put some doors back here. But that's literally it, guys. It's so easy. So with that, these guys would start to breed if they were, what did we talk about earlier? Willing, of course. So to make these guys willing, there's a few things we can do, right? We could trade with them and they would be willing, or we can feed them, okay? So what you can do is give these guys a bunch of carrots, and eventually, yeah, that guy just picked them up, and they should now, eventually after 5 or 6 minutes here, be enticed enough to start breeding. Now, if you wanted to speed this process up or make it fully automatic, what you'd want to do is go in here. La 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 la. No, 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 no. I knew it. I saw it coming. You want to go in here and just add in, let's see if we can get a brown coat in here. The ideal one you want is one like this. See this guy? So if I right click, ooh, no, I'm just spawning more now. If I right click on him, he's actually a shepherd, but he's got a brown coat, which means if I plant stuff, he'll be able to pick it up and plant it. So that's how you fully automate this, guys. You would want to put some kind of crop down there to make sure that the villager can actually breed or entice on his own, pick up the carrots, plant the carrots on his own, and then toss them out to entice people on their own. If you wanted to speed it up, you could absolutely go in on your own and start tossing carrots. Maybe you could have dispensers that toss carrots in eventually or stuff like that. But this is the gist of how it works, guys, and this totally looks exactly like my villager breeder because that's exactly what it is. The only thing my villager breeder does is add in a way to let the baby villager breeders out. So with that, you guys, I hope you found this video useful. I hope you found some useful information. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. It took a while to put all this research together and put it nicely into a video. With that, you guys, thank you for watching. Have a good one, and bye-bye.